we're going to try a flight in the Textron Aviation Beechcraft King Air 350i. We're going to use little nav map to create a flight plan, and we are in the Gulf of Mexico here in Florida, and we're going to try a flight from Northwest Kilo Echo Charlie Papa to Pensacola. Let's see if I can find it right here, Pensacola. So Kilo Papa November Sierra. So let's start building the flight plan. I'm just going to zoom in here and see what the preferred runway is. Runway 16. So I'm going to pick a gate right here. Let's see, I'll just pick this gate right here, 41, see if it's available. And that's our departure. And then for our runway, we will pick the preferred runway. Let's just see which way the wind's blowing. Yeah, so the wind's blowing across the runway, sort of coming from the southwest. So runway 16 for departure. All right, so that's in there. Now let's go over to Pensacola. Zoom in here and see. Preferred runway is 26 and 17. So we're going to go with 26 because it's an RNAV approach, our destination, and we are going to pick runway 26. Say okay, it's plenty long enough, and we're also going to right click and see if there's any arrival procedures. And what we need to do is pick an RNAV approach, and I don't believe there is any ILS approach on this. Yeah, that's in the localizer approach, but we're going to pick RNAV, this one right here. Let's see how that looks. No, that's the wrong one. Let's try this one here. Okay, that's the correct one. See, it flies in this runway, 26. RNAV 26T. Okay, so we'll go with that. If I click on these, you can see that's localizer, and that's for a different runway. So go back to this one, and you just click insert that RNAV approach. So now this is what we have. I have 4,000 feet set, which should be okay. You'll get some warnings if it doesn't work, but the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit calculate. So I'm going to leave that at 4,000. You can see I have instrument flight rules here set. So let's just hit that button again right there is to calculate a flight plan. And you can see I have these boxes ticked off, 4,000. You can hit adjust. So in other words, if that was 3,000, I'll show you what would happen. Adjust it to 4,000 when you hit it. So now you hit calculate, and it should insert a few more waypoints, which it did. Now, this does not mean that necessarily Microsoft Flight Sim will actually recreate this flight plan, even though we're going to export it. So first thing I'm going to do is hit save the flight plan in little nav map. So I'll hit save, and the other thing I'm going to do is export it. Export this flight plan as a Microsoft Flight Plan 2020. And I'm going to say save, and it will save it into a directory into Microsoft Flight Sim. It knows where to save it. So I'm going to hit tools here, and I'm going to hit connect. Also, I'm going to go back to Microsoft Flight Sim and hit space more and load from this PC. And so there's the one we just created right there. I'm going to say open, and there's the flight plan that it's given us. So there's the waypoints it created. So this is the little nav map flight plan imported, and this is how Microsoft Flight Sim has accepted it into it. So you can see we do have the RNAV runway 26, and we do have leaving from that parking gate. So let's hit fly, see how things go. So the King Air 350i is an excellent aircraft. It's an executive aircraft, very luxurious. In October of 2008, Beechcraft announced updated versions of their B300 series. The King Air 350i with improvements to the passenger cabin. The manufacturer claims that the noise levels and overall comfort of the King Air 350i are better than some previous versions and as good and comparative to some of the light jets that it's in competition with. So the cabin of the B300 series has been updated with controllers in the passenger seat armrests that dim the LED lights, darken the windows, and control an iPod dock and high-definition video monitor. The cabin also includes universal serial bus USB ports, AC electrical receptacles, and fold-out tables for each passenger in the 8 seats fitted. Deliveries commenced in December of 2009. The cabin sound level is reduced to 78 decibels due to better insulation. More than 440 of these aircraft have been produced and delivered in the last 10 years. On a 1-hour trip, it is a 10 to 15 minutes slower than a jet, while burning 700 to 900 pounds less fuel. It cruises at 292 knots, and it burns around 503 pounds of fuel per hour and can reach 312 knots TAS at flight level 240. The 1.8 million Blackhawk PT-6A-67A upgrade offers 68 knots TAS faster cruise and up to 60% shorter time to climb. Direct operating costs are around 1,300 to 1,500 per hour, including a 900-pound average fuel flow per hour. At 3,600 hours, the first pair of engine overhauls is required, and it costs around $500,000 to $550,000. The second overhaul is more expensive, costing as much as $800,000 to $1.2 million. By September of 2019, second-hand aircraft of the King Air 350i were priced at around $3 million to $4 million for later models. In 2019, the King Air 350i price was US $7.75 million and US $8.8 million for the King Air 350i ER. So that's about the price they are now, I believe. They run around the same. So let's take a look at this airplane, beautifully rendered by Microsoft Flight Sim. It does fly very well. The nav system, which is the Garmin G1000, seems to work pretty good. The only problem I found is sometimes when you run a little nav map along with this Microsoft Flight Sim, there's issues. One of them is importing the flight plan, which we just did. So let's see how it interpreted and how it went. We're going to use the checklist. Now, an actual checklist for this King Air looks like this. So this would be your pre-startup checklist. So Microsoft Flight Sim does do a pretty good pre-start, but it's not quite as extensive. So that would be for the real world. You can see that our radio system's not working right now. But I'm just going to autocomplete these. It's going to go through these. And you can also do evaluation if you want to find out where the things are, or you can autocomplete per item. So I'll do evaluation for the first page, and then I'll auto-complete the second page for starting the engine, just to speed things up. So show you how that works. So if I go evaluation,
Parking brake. Set. Power levers. Idle. Prop RPM levers.
okay, so must be fully pushed. So you can manually
Max
do that.
RPM. Condition levers.
Yeah, you can just cut them off. I'm just going to close that window for a bit.
Fuel cutoff. Battery switch.
And we'll put the battery switch on.
On.
Beechcraft 853, continue taxi.
So now we can talk to ATC. I've got the
Panama City
co-pilot
ground
looking
Nasser
after
616
ATC.
IFR to Pensacola, ready to copy.
Nasser 616 is cleared to Pensacola Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 16 climb and maintain 4,000 feet. Departure frequency
4,000
is
feet.
120.825 squawk 50 tree tree.
So let's go to
Beechcraft 853, hold position.
startup.
The Beechcraft King Air on the taxiway.
Nasser 616 cleared to Pensacola Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 16 climb and maintain 4,000 feet. Departure on 120.825 squawk 50 tree tree.
Nasser 616 readback is correct. Contact ground on 121.65 when ready to taxi. Good day.
Okay, so I'm going to auto-complete this page.
Beechcraft 853, hold position caution. The Beechcraft King Air on the taxiway.
Well, we're not on the taxiway yet.
Beechcraft 853, continue taxi.
Well, that's a different beach.
Beechcraft
There's another one right
853,
there.
hold position caution. The Beechcraft King Air on the taxiway.
So we'll just start things up here.
Continue taxi.
Checking the
Beechcraft 853,
RPMs.
hold position caution. The Beechcraft King Air on the taxiway. Beechcraft 853, continue taxi.
So the left engine should be starting. Let's make sure everything's clear here.
On the taxiway. Beechcraft 853, continue taxi.
Okay, so we got the left engine going here.
Roger, Beechcraft 853.
Just going to let that complete its sequence there of start up for the engines. Now, after starting, let's take a look here at the so some of these things are, as you can see, are also included in the radio avionics instruments, taxi lights on, etc. So let's just click here.
Avionics master switch. On. Lights.
Okay, so we can do that ourselves and put the taxi lights on. Now, if you autocomplete that, this would just automatically go. It's a little slower doing it manually, but it does show you where to go. You've got to get it right on with your mouse.
On.
So we got our lights on.
Parking brake.
So when I release this parking brake, it's going to start to roll. So
Release.
okay, so I completed that checklist, and I am going to put the parking brake back on for a second so this thing doesn't start rolling on me. And so I got it back on again, and that's why we're getting the warning. So Control 2. I'm just going to shut the warning off. Right there. And that one I can... Alright, so what I want to do here is set the altitude to 4,000. And I want to do the barometric pressures, part of it, checklist to get ready.
Beechcraft 853.
And
Caution. The Beechcraft
barometric
King Air on the
pressure.
taxiway.
Just set the barometric pressure. And you want to click on here, set that to GPS. get your system working.
Hold position.
You can see
Beechcraft
from
8
this,
flight
like,
tree.
we've got kind of a crazy loop going on here. I guess it's going to depart there and swing around. Let's see what runway they asked us to head out on.
Beechcraft 8 flight tree. Continue taxi.
Runway 16. Okay. So you can zoom in here.
Roger, Beechcraft
So you
8
can see
flight
there's
tree.
runway 16 right there.
Beechcraft 8 flight tree. Hold position. Caution. The Beechcraft
So we're going to
King
have
Air
to
on the
go out and
taxiway.
turn to our left. Okay, so just want to show you a few things here quickly. There's the
Hold position.
flight
Beechcraft
director,
8 flight tree.
vertical speed, up, down, flight level, FLC mode, nav, heading,
Beechcraft 8
approach,
flight tree. Continue
altitude, hold, yaw damper, autopilot, and flight director again. Altitude, heading, speed. You have to control your speed yourself with the King Air, as far as I can see. So everything looks good here. There's our torque. There's our internal turbo temperatures between high and low pressure. And there's our props right now. So everything looks pretty good. So control 1 gives us this screen. There's our speed gauge. There's our altitude. And there is information on the waypoints we're going to head to, our estimated time, our ground speed, our tracking. This is handled. The XPDR is handled automatically. So we're in pretty good shape here. We can look at our flight plan. If we split the screen here and go flight plan, we don't need to worry about setting a nav frequency for RNAV. But we can see here's our waypoints. And you can see 4,000. And this is what's nice here. As we hit the waypoints on our approach to the runway, we are going to be going at 2,200 feet, and then we have to get down to 1,700 and then to 860 to pick up that glide slope. We have to hit those waypoints at those altitudes, or it's not really going to work, but we could always take the autopilot off and just land manually if necessary, if we don't pick up the glide slope. So control 2, control 3 gives us this screen, and like I said, we can zoom in and zoom out. Control 4 will give us our lights, etc., our parking brake, avionics switch. We saw those during the checklist. Control 5, there we've got our engine conditions, our prop, and this is our throttle. We've got the rudder and the pitch aileron, so that these are automatically set for us. So you don't want to mess with those. If you get them off, you could have disastrous takeoff. And let's see, that's control 6. This is basically inoperative stuff, but it's there for aesthetics to make it nice and realistic. Control 7. There's the fuel. That's how much fuel we have. That's to the left of the captain's seat. You can see the temperature gauge there. Control 8. This is to allow you to put on your windshield wipers if it's raining, and your instrument master panel lights. And you can adjust your your floodlights, especially at night. You're going to have to do that. And let's go back to control 1. And I'm just going to show you, by pressing your shift key and going like this, you can turn around and see in the back of this. And then if you hold your alt key and your shift, you can line it up, and then you can use your mouse to take a look at the luxurious leather seating here. You can zoom up and down, and you can get a look at what it looks like back there. This King Air might have a washroom in it in behind one of these panels. Some of them do. depending on the model, I guess. So what I'm going to do now is back off again, and then go around, and I'm going to have to go Control 1, and let's see, Control 1 again, gets me back to this screen. So I think we're pretty much ready to go. Take a look at the main stuff that we have to look at. The GPS direction. Alright, so let's head out. I'm going to let them know we're ready to taxi.
Panama City Ground Nasser 616 with uniform ready to taxi IFR.
Nasser 616 taxi, to and hold short of runway 16 via taxiway Alpha. Contact tower on 118.9 when ready.
Okay, I got to take the parking brake off, and
Taxiing hold
that's
short
done
runway
by
16
pressing
via taxiway
Control
Alpha Nasser
Delete
616.
on your keyboard. Be good, just on idle. So a little nav map, you can downsize it like this, and then you can zoom in on it, and it should center us because I've got this checked off here. But we have to give it a second. I'm just going to get this up here. That's out of the way. There we go. So we can see where we are. Now you can use your mouse to back off. So right now, little nav map is connected to my mouse. As soon as I click on this window, this will close and the mouse will be effective. So your keyboard and your mouse aren't going to work right now. They're controlling little nav map. But it's nice to see the overhead view with a little nav map in our aircraft. So I'm going to close that down right now. And coming up, getting ready to depart. Just swing around here. Okay, so there are no other checklists provided for
Panama
this
City Tower Nasser 616 ready for IFR departure runway 16.
Nasser 616, altimeter 30.07, wind 234 at 10. Traffic is generic on final. Cleared
Got the
for takeoff
parking
runway
brake on.
16.
Okay, we're
Cleared
cleared.
for takeoff runway 16 Nasser 616.
Okay. Alrighty, so I'm just going to check the barometric pressure again, make sure that's okay. And it is. And we're going to have to set our flaps, but we can take a look at our, well, for one thing, our taxi lights need to go off. Let's just press Control 4 on your keyboard to bring that up. So we're done taxiing. I'm going to leave the landing lights on because we're going to be under 10,000 feet. So Control 1, and let's just bring up the checklist again. So that was the taxi checklist. Parking brakes, taxi to runway, brakes and instruments checked. And before takeoff, parking brakes set, throttle to idle, propeller. So there you go. Your landing lights on, taxi lights off. Pitot heat on, transponder, flight instruments, check, 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 takeoff. And there's your VR. Okay, so I think it gives you your VR speeds right here. So there's your V speeds there. So you're going to rotate at around 110. Okay, and we're going to have flaps up and landing gear up, fuel pumps off. Okay, so that's going to be handled, some of it, by, you know, Microsoft Flight Sim. It doesn't require you to do all those things. So what we're going to do is roll out onto the runway, and I'll take the parking brake off now. So we're cleared for takeoff. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put the parking brake on like they said, and I'll shut the warning off just for now because it does get annoying. We're going to put the flaps down. Okay, and we should be ready to roll. So now I can take the parking brake off. And we'll just see how this thing flies. Oh, I can see our altitudes already. For some reason at 100, I'm not sure. But first of all, we're just going to worry about our takeoff, get our landing gear up and our flaps up, part of our checklist after takeoff. Now I'm going to go control 2, and I'm going to set the altitude to 4,000,
Going to 120.825
and then
Nasser 616.
autopilot, flight director,
Jacksonville departure
autopilot,
Nasser
yaw damper,
616 is passing
nav,
800 feet,
vertical
climbing
speed
4,000
up.
feet.
You can see we're climbing.
616 Jacksonville, departure altimeter 30.07. Continue as planned.
Okay, the plane is turning, so it's trying to pick up the flight plan. So the vertical speed's on. We are going up at around, yeah, I don't want to go up too quickly, too much of an angle of attack, but that looks pretty good. So, once again, flight director is on, check, autopilot, yaw damper, nav, and just watch your speed. You don't get going too fast. So hopefully this thing is going to pick up the flight plan. See, looks like we're flying around to head in the right direction. So let's just go control 3 here. I'll check the barometric pressure again. We're okay. Control 3 will bring us up this window. So let's just back off here. So there's our plane right there. So it took off and is circling around to pick up the flight plan. Something that the King Air does quite well. Now, some other aircraft I've noticed, when you take off in the wrong direction, it won't swing around and pick up the flight plan like the King Air is doing right now. When it's been introduced by little nav map as a flight plan, you actually have to use your heading and set your heading to get back to a waypoint, and then it seems to connect with the flight plan. But right now, the King Air is doing fine. So let's take a look at that checklist again. So this is what they're recommending for your RPMs. So you can bring your props back a little bit, adjust them. It'll help a little bit with your RPMs. And you can, I'm not going to mess with the engine condition, but you can put it on low idle if you want. But if you push it all the way down, you actually shut the engine off in Microsoft Flight Sim. So our flaps are up. Okay, so control 1 will bring us back this screen. So I'm just going to move a little bit ahead here. So we're now at 4,000. And we're doing 225 knots. So if you're wondering about little nav map, let's bring it up. See what it looks like. So there we are. So with little nav map, you can actually see your top of climb, which we have just reached, and you can see your top of descent. You should be able to zoom in and out on this, and here's where we're headed. Get, off and get some other information. I can close that window. 10 messages. You're connected to the simulator. NOAA weather is downloaded. Flight segment, departure, parking, and it's kind of neat. You get a lot of information with this. So let's have a look here at where we are. So here is U.S. Highway 331 South that we'll be flying over shortly. Just going to watch this. You can see that I have heads-up display turned on outside, which is very helpful if you want to try and enjoy the scenery outside, the aircraft, look at it in flight, and see the ground terrain below. You can still monitor what's happening with your speed and your engine, your fuel, your angle of attack looks fine. Here's a compass to show you that you're flying on your GPS route. So let's just go back again to the nav map quickly. See, so we're following this so far. So these waypoints have been entered. Obviously this one here, I assume. Let's just go inside the aircraft and have a look. Misty. See if that's in there. Yeah. So 4,000 feet to Misty. And then after that, it looks like it goes right into the, more or less, the approach. So,
616 contact Jacksonville Center on 132.1. Good day.
132.1 Nasser 616. Jacksonville Center Nasser 616 4,100 feet.
Nasser 616, Jacksonville Center altimeter 30.06. Continue as planned.
so you can zoom in, zoom out, and you can drag this so you can see where you're at. So that's what I really like about this touchscreen on the Garmin G1000 in the King Air. This is a very expensive system to have installed in this aircraft.
Jacksonville Center Exejet 773 is passing 2,300 feet, descending 2,000 feet.
So you can see your fuel flow,
Exejet 773,
your
Jacksonville
oil
Center
temperature,
altimeter
and your oil pressure.
30.06. Continue as planned.
See your torque, your turbine temperatures between high and low pressure turbines. You can see your props, what the RPMs are on your props, so it's all looking pretty good. It's telling us, I think the pitot, I don't think we have it turned on. Let me have a look at that. Pitot, so that's right here. I mean, with the temperature being what it is, it's 72 Fahrenheit inside this aircraft, and it is 22 Celsius outside. So, I mean, it's not going to freeze up any of our external devices like the pitot. So you don't really have to turn it on.
7 miles east. Descend and maintain 6,000 feet. Expect ILS runway tree 2 approach via Rocco transition. Clear to Rocco.
Okay.
7 Whiskey Bravo. You are 9 or 7 miles east of downtown. Contact downtown tower on 118.8 when inbound on the approach.
I'm just going
Generic
to
Niner,
zoom
1
out
Yankee
here
traffic is 6
and
o'clock, 3
drag.
miles at 4,000
So there's this
500 feet
waypoint
range
here.
around the King Air.
So we still 4,000 at that waypoint. But at this waypoint, we're going to need to be at, well, right here actually, 2,200 feet. So in preparations for that, we can actually set that right now.
Generic Niner, 1 Yankee traffic in sight.
So we can set that at 2,200. You can see it right over here. But because we haven't activated it, the vertical speed, it's going to still stay at 4,000. because altitude hold is on right now. Okay, let's check our barometric pressure again. So there's our radio call. For Nasser.
Exeget 773 Airport is at your 1 o'clock, 12 miles. Maintain present heading and altitude. Report runway in sight.
So,
Skywest 307
there's a good look at the
maintain
aircraft.
flight level 360.
We'll zoom in a little bit. We can see
American 1817, contact
the
Jacksonville
captain and the
Center
co-pilot. We
on
can see the
134.15.
beautifully rendered King Air.
Good day.
You can see it's turning to follow the flight plan right now.
Heading and altitude Exeget
So
773.
the autopilot seems to be working okay. Go back inside and check our instruments. Okay, so it's just turned to head towards here. Oh, maybe I've got the wrong one. Yeah, right there. Here we are. Some of these airplanes look the same. So we're heading for this waypoint right now. You can see it right here. And you can also see right here. Bearing, and you can see it's going to take us 6 minutes to get there. Here's our ground speed. And the comm audio is being handled by the co-pilot.
Generic 520, you are 2 miles northwest. Descend and maintain 2,000 feet. Expect vectors. Visual runway tree to approach.
So when we get to this waypoint there, we're going to have to start descending.
Traffic is 10 o'clock, 3 miles at 2,700 feet generic. Report them in sight. Nasser 616 traffic is 9 o'clock, 4 miles at 600 feet generic. Report them in sight.
So you see we're not following
Maintain
the
present heading and altitude.
little nav map flight plan anymore. We're following this flight plan, which has been
Nasser 616,
modified
have the
by
traffic.
Microsoft Flight Sim.
Generic 520 descend and maintain 2,000
The nice thing, you can see all this traffic here. You can see all these planes coming into land, I guess, or whatever. You can see their altitudes. They're
Jacksonville Center,
1,200.
generic November
I mean, they're
7671 Golf is passing 1,900 feet, climbing 6,000 feet.
This one's at 2,000.
Generic November 7671
So just below
Golf,
us, actually.
Jacksonville Center altimeter 30.07 continue as
So these
planned.
planes are, we're flying over top of this airport, and they're
Generic
coming in
71
underneath.
Golf traffic is 5 o'clock 1 mile at 2,000 feet generic. Report them in sight. Nasser 616, you are 3 miles east. Maintain present heading and altitude. Expect RNAV runway 26 approach via VAR transition. Clear to VAR.
Okay.
Generic 520 descend and maintain 2,000 feet.
Maintain present heading and altitude. Expect RNAV runway 26 approach via VAR transition cleared to VAR Nasser 616.
Generic 71 Golf, have the traffic. Nasser 616, contact Pensacola approach on 119.0. Good day.
Going to 119.0 Nasser 616. Pensacola approach Nasser 616 4,100 feet.
Nasser 616 Pensacola approach altimeter 30.07. Continue to VAR as planned.
Just make sure you don't get your speed into that overspeed zone. Okay, let's take a look at our checklist here. Cruising. So, you know, these are things that we've been looking at on our instruments. So it's all part of the cruise checklist. And then the descent checklist is check ATIS airport information. You can do that if you want. And altimeter, you want to make sure that's set right. Radio descent speed, there you go, 180. Props. So let's just check the ATS weather. I don't know if that's going to cause us a problem at all. Yeah, I don't see that on here. Sometimes you're able to click on and get your let's go back to that. Yeah, sometimes you're able to get your ATIS airport information just by clicking on ATC. I mean, if I go here, I don't think I'm going to see it. Yeah, no. Get back to where we can communicate with them. So here we go. We're coming up here. We're going to get ready to start descending. They should tell us, actually, very shortly to descend. You can see here it looks like we're not headed in the right direction, but let's see what happens here. I mean, it doesn't look really bad right now. But you can see we would have to fly in this direction to chase that needle. I'm just going to see once it gets to this waypoint if it turns on its own. If it doesn't, I'm going to have to use my heading to get it to go to this waypoint. You can also do fly direct to, but this may be fine here. Let's just see if it's going to go out and do a loop. I find with Microsoft Flight Sim sometimes it creates its own little approach to some of these waypoints. What you want to do if you see the plane going a little bit off is make sure it's still on GPS. If it's on ROL, you know it's lost its tracking and needs to be reset. So really this should turn and head that way. So also you want to check up here, make sure that your nav is still on, it hasn't gone off for some reason, and your autopilot's still on, flight director is still on. So you need those things on. So let's just see what happens here. I'm going to give it a chance to turn on its own. Okay, so we have to descend.
Descend and maintain 2,200 feet, Nasser 616.
Control 2. So, vertical speed down. Now this aircraft should be turning. And it's turning now. So, bottom line is, because it was still on GPS here, it hadn't really lost its way. It wanted to fly out here and do a loop back to line itself up. Now that's purely Microsoft Flight Sim having introduced that. So far so good, and it is descending, and we're descending. So just watch your speed. We don't want to be around 190, I think, on our checklist. So we're coming around to line up with this, probably come in at a better angle. When we get to this waypoint here, we have to be at 2,200, so we're going to be fine. Now you want to check your barometric pressure once more in case you happen to miss what ATC gave it to you. Just part of your checklist, make sure it's accurate. go outside and see what's happening here. Okay, everything's looking good. So we're going to want to be down into this zone below 160 to get our landing gear and flaps down. So we can start slowing down a bit. Now, our next elevation is 1700, so I'm going to get that set up. Probably going to tell me to get to that. Yeah, we have to be at that at this waypoint right here. So we're still okay at 2,200 for home 2. This is where you got to watch your airspeed as well. Okay, a little correction here to head to the next waypoint. Pensacola's over here somewhere. Or over here, I'm not sure. So, I'm paying attention to my instruments here. Descent checklist. So, altimeter, descent speed, 180, propeller, RPMs. Okay. So, let's have a look here. So we check that barometric pressure again, just changed, and control five, make sure everything's okay here. Control 1, bring the screen back. Okay, we're lined up pretty good. We should be descending shortly.
Nasair 616 descend and maintain 1,700 feet.
Okay. Control 2 will bring this up
Descend
again.
and maintain 1,700 feet, Nasair 616.
Vertical speed down. And we are descending at, well, let's go down 1,000 feet per minute or whatever. We should be descending. Vertical speed down. Should go down to 1,700. Now you see this green, this magenta G should turn green if we pick up the glide path. So you can see where we're returning here. And this next waypoint, let's just go control 1 here. The next one is 860. Control 2. Let's see where we're at here. Once we get to 1,700, so that's off now. So I can set this now to 860. Oh, 900. Well, maybe 800 then. And that's where we have to be when we hit this waypoint. So right now I'm going to see if we going to pick up approach, and I have to put down my flaps now. Just get my speed down.
Landing gear.
Yeah, so they want us to put our landing gear down. And I'm going to get my flaps down, but I wanted to get my speed down a bit there.
Nasair 616, you are 8 miles east of Pensacola.
So you see this is on,
Tower on 119er
but it
decimal
hasn't
9er
turned
Nasser
green, so we haven't
616.
picked it up.
Pensacola Tower Nasser 6167 miles east inbound RNAV runway 26 approach.
Okay, so I'm going to start descending.
Pensacola Tower. Altimeter tree 0.07 winds 24 tree.
I'm going to descend now to
Cleared
800.
RNAV runway 26 approach.
Cleared RNAV runway 26 approach Nasser 616.
So I'll just put on my autopilot if I have to. So, vertical speed on, down.
Clear to land runway 26 Nasser 616.
So if I don't pick up the glide path, I will just, you know, take it off autopilot and land. But we should pick it up if we get to that elevation. We haven't hit this waypoint yet, so we should still be okay. We have to be at 860 there. So you can see we've got a bit of a ways to go there, and we're looking good. It looked like we're going to get to that waypoint. Now this should turn green and start descending on its own. Don't think it's going to do it though, but that's okay. Oh, there it goes. It just picked it up. You see, when we got to that waypoint, we had to be at that elevation or altitude, I should say. So now it's taking us in on a glide path. The autopilot is. And the barometric pressure, I'm just going to check it once more. See, it just adjusted slightly. So we have the right altitude here. And our speed looks good. We want to try, yeah, we want to try and get our speed down to about 110 or so. Looks like we're coming in pretty good here. So we can take it off autopilot now and just land it ourselves. Just watch your speed. Yeah, speed's looking good. And just pull up gently on the nose and bring her down. And then brake. Okay. Welcome to Pensacola, Florida. I've actually been here.
Nasser 616, turn next taxiway.
Okay, let's see which, here we go. Just going to turn here, put on our taxi lights. Oh, it's a pretty narrow little taxiway
Nasser
here.
616, contact ground on 121.9er.
Okay,
121.9er Nasser 616.
just put on the parking brakes for a second. And Control 4. Get our taxi lights on. And let's just bring up that checklist. So, well, 100 they recommend for the landing speed, but boy, that's getting real close to stalling. So, strobe lights off. So let's just move this over here. See what else they had on there. Throttle idle, PTOT off, taxi lights. Oh, that's a shutdown. Okay, taxi. So landing lights off. You can leave those on actually, so you're really nice and visible. You can just do that all when you get there. And then there's your maximum speed for taxiing. And your transponder gets turned off. Strobe light off, flaps up. Okay, so let's head on over. So got a little warning here because I got the thing on, but so let's get those flaps up. Okay, so we can ask for taxi to parking. Oh, we'll taxi to the
Pensacola
gates.
ground Nasser 616 taxi to the gate.
Nasser 616 taxi to gate 11 using taxiway Charlie cross runway 35 Charlie Bravo cross runway 8 Bravo.
Okay,
Taxiing
there's
to gate
our
11
route.
via taxiway Charlie cross runway 35 Charlie Bravo cross runway 8 Bravo Nasser 616.
There we are right now, right here. And we are going to turn to our right. So I'll just leave this up so you can see where we're going. Take the parking brakes off. Let's just go inside and make sure the parking brakes are off. There we go. When little nav map's up, it's controlling the mouse and the keyboard, so the parking brake didn't actually go off for me. So now that I've got, I'll put the little nav map up again. There we go. So this tutorial is for flying the King Air 350i in Microsoft Flight Sim, not the real world. It's a lot more complicated and challenging actually flying this plane in the real world. But for Microsoft Flight Sim, this will get you airborne and flying this plane beautifully. So we're coming up to a turn here, and the nice thing about little nav map, you see the taxiways gravel that we're turning onto, so you can see actually where they are. So even without these blue arrows turned on in our settings, you can find your way around any airport with a little nav map up. It's hard to read those markers without little nav map. You can see they're small and a little difficult to read. And the taxiing instructions from ATC sometimes can be a little bit complicated if you're not familiar. Okay, we're coming around here to where our gate is. Looks like we've got a fuel truck right in the way here. Just go around that. When you want these fuel trucks, they never come. Okay, here we go. Coming up to the gate. You can see that blue box up there. That's when you turn on these arrows, that blue box will come on as well. So it's kind of nice. Okay, let's go inside and see if I can see what we got here. Okay, this guy's wandering around just aimlessly. Not much you can do about that. But this little dude is definitely helping us out. Oh, it's right ahead. Okay, when the box disappears, you're pretty much in the right spot, but he wants us to go a little bit further. He'll drop his hands. There we go. We're good. And you can see we're right in the parking spot that they gave us at the gate in little nav map. Alright, so I'm going to put on the parking brake and we'll see about shutting this down. Let's see if okay, shut down. shutting down parking brake set, throttle to idle, which I have. Oh, this thing's rolling. Okay, I know what happened there. Because I have this screen up, it's not working. So let's just, okay, put that back on. And let's just go Control 4. And these lights can all be turned off. Okay. The P-TOTs are off. Avionics we can turn off. Let's just take a look at the okay, so that has to be on idle. These down, these fuel cut off. That'll stop your engines. Make sure your flaps are up. And let's just go see what else we got here. Okay, so if you go to their checklist, I'm just if you go to the checklist, starting engine, you can see some of these things here. Condition lever, right ignition. If you click on that, it'll show you where it's at. See, so that would be off. And let's go after starting engine, avionics lights. Okay, avionics we have off. And let's go back to before starting. Parking brake, prop, condition levers, fuel cutoff, battery switch. Okay. All right. So you can go back over these if you're not sure where some of this stuff is. And I think if we go outside and look, we'll see the plane is shut down. There we go. And we can also check our list again. So the parking brake is set, the throttle is idle, P-TOT de-ice is off, nav, those lights are all off, beacon, fuel condition levers are cut off, battery switch is off, alternator switches are off. So we did everything. So thank you very much for joining me on this flight. I hope you enjoyed the ride and that you learned something about flying the Beechcraft King Air 350i. So have a good day. I'll catch you next time, Flight Simmers.